let's have a call to order. And Aaron, can we do a roll call, even though we kind of...
Yep. Ms. Acevedo.
Here.
Ms. Douglas.
Here.
Mr. Gantino.
Here in Royal Oak. I think we have to say that, right?
Oh, yes, that's right. The others are Royal Oak, I assume, with the head nod?
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Hartwig.
Here in Royal Oak.
Ms. Herzog.
Here in Royal Oak.
Ms. Lemmy.
Here in Royal Oak.
Mr. Long.
Here in Royal Oak.
Mr. Marcelletti.
Here in Royal Oak.
Ms. McMahon.
Here in Royal Oak.
Mr. Regan. Tom's here, right?
Yeah.
Muted, I'm sorry. Here in Royal Oak.
Mr. Sarpalis.
Here in Royal Oak.
And Mr. Vile.
Here in Royal Oak.
Great.
For that, a full house.
Everyone made it. Okay, so on to the approval of the March 24th, today's agenda. My only change to the agenda is that we'll just approve the January 27th meeting minutes. I do have a question about the meeting minutes. Do we have to do them if our meetings are recorded?
Yes.
We do. Okay. Is there any other?
I liked your thought process, Amanda.
I felt like we were doing something twice, but okay. Is there any other changes that we want to make to the agenda? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So do we probably need to vote on the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, we'll call the roll. Ms. Acevedo.
Yes.
Ms. Douglas.
Yes.
Mr. Gantino.
Yes.
Ms. Hartwig.
Yes.
Ms. Herzog.
Yes.
Ms. Lemmy.
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes.
Mr. Marcelletti.
Yes.
Ms. McMahon.
Yes.
Mr. Regan.
Yes.
Mr. Sarpalis.
Yes.
Mr. Vile.
Yes.
All right, great. We have a guest speaker today, and so I'm going to have Julie. Julie invited her to come talk to us, so I'll have Julie do the introduction.
Hey, great. So Elise is here with us to talk about the PACE program, and I'll just give a little background. Elise Matz is the Government Relations Manager with Lean and Green Michigan, where she works to leverage the full potential of PACE by connecting with local government leaders and business owners across Michigan. She currently serves on Michigan's Utility Consumer Participation Board, which makes grants to groups that represent residential customers in the utility rate-making process. She is also a consultant for MI Cares, My Cares, a multi-year research project of Michigan Technological University and Michigan State University to study energy transition in rural and indigenous communities. Welcome, Elise. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you so much, Julie and members of the board. So I think I'll just go ahead and start sharing my screen if I can. All right, let's see if I can start, just load up to full screen here. There we go. Presenting online today. So thank you so much for having me here. And Julie, thank you for the very kind introduction. So we'll start out with an introduction to our team. I am the Government Relations Manager, as you mentioned. And we also have joining us today, Todd Williams, our President and General Counsel. He let me know that it is very nice where he is, and he is grilling, so we appreciate him joining us between burger flips tonight. Thank you, Todd. And he'll be particularly helpful if we get into the Q&A. As you can see here, our team puts the Lean and Green. We're a pretty small outfit. So it's Todd and Aaron as the attorneys, our intrepid external affairs manager, Christian, who's been with us for a few years, and me, who actually just came on in November. So I'm just going briefly run through our agenda for today. I'm hoping that we can, wrap up the presentation in about 20 minutes and leave some time for questions. So I'm just going to go through sort of why PACE, what it is, how Lean and Green works with local governments, talk about some things that we've done and some numbers that we're proud of in the past 5 years or so, run through some case studies to maybe get your minds thinking about, where PACE might fit in Royal Oak, and then take some questions. Okay, so why PACE? So energy efficiency is a really big, not exactly the most exciting part of energy transition, but certainly a huge piece of the puzzle, as I think we all know, and obviously has a real potential to, save folks money. And there's also, going to be a lot more building stock. We know in the next, 40 years, by 2060, we expect building stock to double in area. And yet a lot of energy is wasted in buildings. And so, we would love to have business owners and others take steps to remedy that. The problem is that financially for businesses, energy efficiency, water efficiency, and renewable energy projects can be expensive. And a lot of traditional financing tools require a large upfront investment, and you get a payback that trickles in, over years, if not decades. So for businesses that are, and nonprofits that are looking, that maybe want to make these improvements, there's just not a ton of incentive. It doesn't make financial sense. So PACE comes in as a potentially elegant solution to that, as it was conceived. So it allows a property owner to voluntarily enter into a special assessment agreement with their local government to secure a private loan that can be repaid over a period of up to 25 years under Michigan statute. So it's sort of a win-win-win. The local government gets a free economic development tool that can increase their tax base. The property owners get a very attractive loan, 100% upfront financing at a fixed interest rate. And the lenders, that special assessment makes this an attractive market for lenders. So they get the security of that property lien that's created by the special assessment. So some of the hallmarks of PACE financing, again, as we said, 100% upfront financing, up to 25% of the value of the property at a fixed interest rate. The loan is a long-term loan. Again, another big hallmark of the PACE project. So you see the repayment is stretched out over a long period of time as the savings gradually accrue. And the loan is non-recourse, meaning it runs with the land. So if the property owner were to sell, the special assessment goes with the property, not the property owner. And just to highlight here, we have two different kinds of programs per Michigan statute. We have PACE, and then we, a couple years ago, started PACE Express, which is for smaller projects and just a little bit more of a streamlined process. So under Michigan statute, we are a bit unusual in states across the country that have PACE programs, that our statute requires a savings guarantee, meaning that the contractor actually has to guarantee that on an annual basis, the property owner is going to save more money in energy and water reduction than they're going to pay out in that special assessment. So in Michigan, the good thing about this is that it's cash flow positive from day one, and has to be guaranteed. So the contractor actually puts their name on the line and makes up the difference if it is not. For a PACE Express project, less than $250,000, that's not a requirement. You do have to show an energy savings, but the idea is that for smaller projects, you might not be able to fully pay for the cost of the project and savings, but like if you need a new hot water heater, you need a new hot water heater. And maybe PACE is going to help you get something more efficient than you could otherwise afford. So that leads us to what can PACE finance? And Michigan statute is pretty broad. So our bread and butter tends to be energy efficiency, lighting, HVAC, windows, insulation, roofing, and caulking on the energy efficiency side. Water efficiency can be stormwater recapture, low flow toilet, sink, shower heads, and gray water systems. And we can also finance renewable energy systems, including solar energy, solar roofs, wind energy. EV charging stations are actually explicitly called out in the statute as something that we can fund. Geothermal and combined heat and power. And this is just to point out, again, that EV charger thing. We know that we're seeing a lot of interest in this ever since GM announced that they are moving to an electric fleet. So, again, something we can finance. So I guess the bottom line is that we would urge you to think expansively about this. The list that I just presented you with is not definitive. And if it can save you money in utility or operation and management or draw on some tax benefit, it may qualify for PACE financing. So the bottom line for folks who are new to this program that I would just love you to take away, PACE can get a little bit complex, but it was designed to make this worth the while of business owners and property owners so that it makes sense with their bottom line. Okay, so I'm going to run through how we work. So again, the PACE statute in Michigan was passed in 2010, and it allowed local governments to opt into becoming a PACE jurisdiction. So currently 48 counties, cities, and townships have chosen to go this route, and we work with them. That's over 73% of Michigan's population and an even greater proportion of the business-to-business market. In Oakland County, been unusual. So the city of Royal Oak established a PACE district in 2014. We have never, and I just checked in with Todd on this, to our knowledge, we have not closed a PACE deal in the city of Royal Oak. We have closed some with municipalities around Oakland County that signed up to become PACE jurisdictions. And then Oakland County was like, hey, maybe we should be a PACE jurisdiction. And we were like, that's cool. So they were signed up in November of 2016. And so far we have done 2 completed deals with Oakland County, and I think we're working towards a 3rd now. We see huge potential here. So as far as Lean and Green goes as an administrator, we as an organization, we're a public-private partnership, and we work with these governments, our partner local governments across Michigan, to help them benefit from economy and scale. We're a very small organization. We're really run more like a nonprofit than a for-profit. And we work to implement PACE efficiently with minimal burden to our local government partner staff and make sure that they're compliant with the statute. So to date, we've closed projects with 17 of our local jurisdictions. And we are the experts on CPACE because it's all we do. Todd, who's joining us tonight as our general counsel, he has over a decade of experience working, with all the various parties involved in a PACE deal, and we let him out occasionally for, Sunday walks and Christmas and whatnot. But for the most part, he's just closing PACE deals all day long and has the kind of expertise that would be hard to find elsewhere. So we just sort of, as an organization, sit at the nexus. I try to explain PACE in simple terms. It is an elegant concept. In practice, it gets a bit messy, which is where we come in as administrators. So we help qualify projects. We always like to hear about project leads, and we frequently get together with property owners who are interested in exploring PACE to see if they have something that's going to be a good fit. And if it is, we'll help walk them through the process. And if it's not, we might direct them to another funding source like Michigan Saves or USDA or something else that might better suit their needs. We conduct due diligence to make sure that it's going to be a good fit, to make sure that it's going to be compliant with statute. And essentially just sort of coordinate all of the paperwork and communication involved between the lenders, the contractors, and the property owners. We also do hold contractor trainings. If you're interested in that, go ahead and follow up with me and we can direct you that way. But we certify contractors so that they can go out and talk about PACE and work with it. I guess I'll just pause there really quick and ask if anyone has any questions so far before I launch into this next part of the presentation. All right, I'll keep going. We'll hold it for the end. So 38 projects since 2015. We are very proud of that number, but I think as you can see, we're not here to push stuff. We're here to find projects that are the right fit. I always like to say Dan Gilbert is not shaking in his boots. So that's worth $81.5 million in private investment. And as you can see from the chart there on the right, electricity savings, carbon savings, also money saved, we calculate that for every project. And we have a multiplier. And as you can see, several jobs, both, in extra capital, with businesses and contractor jobs. And you can see how we've grown. It's been a pretty steady upward trajectory over the past 5 years. 2020, as grim as it was in a lot of ways, was actually our best year yet. We didn't close any deals for the first 6 months of the year. And then we went on to have our best year ever. So it was a good way for property owners to unlock capital in a difficult economy. And this year we closed 3 deals. As somebody who's sitting in Michigan's Upper Peninsula right now, I'm actually happy to say that as much as we love our partners in the Metro Detroit area, these were all north. So we closed one in Bay City, Otsego County. We did the Treetops Resort, and then we just did something in Traverse City, and we're really hoping that we have something promising lined up in Escanaba. But we want more of those Oakland County deals, of course. I'm just going to really quickly run through some case studies to just sort of give you a sense of the scope of PACE. So this is one we got really excited about. This is just a really feel-good project. The Shane Street Grocers project in Poletown East neighborhood of Detroit. So as you can see, some pretty traditional energy conservation measures. But this had been an abandoned church, and the property owner wanted to turn it into a mixed-use unit that had a grocery store and coffee shop downstairs, and some tenant apartment units upstairs. So there's a solar roof, which is kind of exciting. And other than that, just refrigeration that was more energy efficient. So this was a smaller one, just to kind of harken back to my earlier slide. This was a Pace Express deal. As you can see, it was about $115,000. It was actually our smallest deal, but really had a pretty big impact over 20 years. So definitely enabled her to make upgrades to the property that she might not have otherwise been able to swing, but is going to make it more efficient to operate and more comfortable for the tenants. And again, this was just a really fantastic example of how a fairly small project, really helped with community development. This is going to be a grocery store that is, bringing food and green stuff to a food desert and supporting urban agriculture. So this was a new construction project, the Cambria Shelby Hotel, sort of like on the other end of things in Macomb County. It's the second deal that we closed in Macomb County. And as you can see here, in a hospitality setting, PACE can be a really great tool for cutting down on those, utility, electricity, water, usage that you're going to see day in and day out. And it was on new construction. They came to us towards the end, from what Todd tells me. They were, having trouble kind of closing a gap in their capital stack, but it just enabled them to make the building more efficient and help them get the project done. Next slide. So as you can see, this starts to be a lot more money. So it was a $3.6 million project over 24 years. And I think the savings were just enormous. So $3.6 million in upfront investment and the estimated savings over $7 million. So this was an interesting one. This was the Strand Theater in downtown Pontiac. So, again, not terribly exciting energy conservation measures, but this project was interesting because they used PACE as a refinancing tool. The property owner had made these improvements 3 years back. And then once COVID hit and, obviously had a huge impact on the theater industry, they were facing some budget shortfalls. They weren't going to be able to sell tickets. And so they chose to refinance these conservation measures with PACE a couple of years after the fact. And that, gave them the capital that they needed to keep going. I've got a quote from the owner saying that basically crediting PACE with enabling them, to stay open and weather COVID so that they could keep in business. So again, fairly substantial amount of money, $1.8 million over 25 years. And then finally, we just had to brag about this one a little. We started with our smallest deal, ending with our biggest deal, new construction, the Exchange in Greektown, Detroit, a very complex and interesting capital stack, and a large building. So roofing plug load controls, window smart thermostats, HVAC, elevator systems, and low flow fixtures. So all things that were going to make this, enormous building run more efficiently. $13 million financed over 25 years for $26 million in estimated savings over the life of the loan. So a question that comes up a lot, how does PACE work with new construction, right? So if you want to prove energy savings to make sure a project qualifies for PACE, you compare it against the building as it currently exists. For new construction, we set a baseline of what the building is at, what energy, water the building would consume at code, and encourage business owners or property owners to go above and beyond code. So this was a more efficient building, a building built above and beyond code and financed by PACE. So for those of you listening in, if you think that you have a deal or you're aware of a property owner, or you are a property owner, or you have a group of potential property owners that might be interested in financing with PACE, please give us a call. We're here to get the word out. Again, it can get kind of complicated. And once we get people on the phone with Todd or Aaron, they'll be able to sort through whether or not this is a good fit. So we always want to have those conversations. You are never wasting our time by giving us a call. And with that, I'm going to open it up for questions.
So I'll kick it off, I guess, if nobody else minds. I just had a question. To me, it's, and I'm Aaron Filipski, Director of Public Services for Royal Oak.
Sure. Hi, Aaron.
Hi. So I see the benefits of this very, it's pretty apparent, but what is it in your experience in working with other communities that they would not want to be a partner? Seems to me like that's an easy one. So what is it in your experience that gives them pause?
Well, I think, part of the gap with other communities is that they just don't necessarily know that it's a tool, right? It's not a common thing. It's a sort of specific thing. And part of the reason I came on this year was to help get the word out. So I think this is actually the first time I'm going to try taking a crack at this question, and Todd can jump in and be my training wheels if I go off the rails here. But it's something that comes up a lot, right? I come in and I'm like, this is an amazing thing. Everybody wins. Don't worry about it. And so there is a potential pitfall if the building were to foreclose, right? Because essentially the whole value of PACE and the thing that makes it special to the lenders and enables these really great loans is that it's secured by that special assessment. And what that means is if there was a default, then the jurisdiction would pursue it, like it would an ordinary overdue tax bill up to and including foreclosure. We have not seen any properties foreclose in Michigan. I guess due to COVID, I've heard that there were a couple of property owners who were late and they worked with their lenders to work out a payment plan before it came back to the jurisdiction. Of all of the PACE deals, commercial PACE deals closed nationwide. We only have commercial PACE in Michigan. But of all the commercial PACE deals closed nationwide, only I believe 2 have gone fully through the foreclosure process. But that would be the risk, essentially, is that the jurisdiction would need to foreclose on a property and then it would come into their ownership. I would say, though, again, it's a pretty conservative market, and it's also, underwritten by the PACE lenders who certainly do not want to see a failed project on their books.
This is Todd. The only other things I would add, and I think that was a good answer, and one of the reasons that we get a bit of pushback or get a bit of hesitancy. We have heard from a few jurisdictions that, frankly, they don't handle economic development. We've talked with a few counties that they really don't want to be involved on economic development. They recommended we talk with the more local jurisdictions, the townships and municipalities. So just a complete lack of interest in any economic development tool. I've had one jurisdiction that really was sure that PACE did not work the way that it works, and no amount of convincing is going to change their mind. And they're really just not interested in that. They think that there will be a tax liability to the municipality, and it will just lead to a bunch of properties falling either to the county or to the local municipality, or just not being resellable. The simple fact is PACE attaches as a lien against the property and runs with the land. We've seen properties sell with the PACE lien attached without a problem, but that township was, or that county was very sure that it would prevent properties from ever selling. So kind of the top three reasons we've heard for not participating in PACE have been those. So
Thank you.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, is there any PACE financing available for government entities like cities, school districts, and so on?
Unfortunately, there is not. Lenders don't trust jurisdiction securing a property against itself, I guess. And so public schools are not eligible, municipal buildings are not eligible. And again, as long as we're on the not eligible list, we do not have residential PACE in Michigan. So multifamily units are eligible, anything 4 and up, no question. That qualifies. Anything under that would get into a gray area.
I'm just curious what your thoughts are on scaling this up, because quite frankly, I mean, I think you said at the beginning you haven't done a project in Royal Oak yet, or I mean, maybe I was wrong in hearing that, but like we have a lot of, like, if we're going to solve a lot of the environmental issues, we need to deploy capital on a scale that has not been done in the past. And I'm just seeing there are some great projects here, but they seem to be kind of few and far between. I'm wondering what are some of the barriers to performing at a much higher scale, because that's really what's going to be required to solve the climate crisis.
So I think education, as I've said, is one gap. And part of the reason I'm here this year is to reach out to folks like you and make sure that you're aware of it. Other than that, I think there can be other financing tools available that can be good for property owners. And, when we find other programs that might be a better fit, like Michigan Saves or something else, we will direct people that way. I think PACE works really well in some situations, and in other situations, it might be a rebate from the utility company or something else that is going to be a better fit. So I'm with you. We need to see more PACE, and we need to see more programs that incentivize energy efficiency and renewable energy projects. We want to be a part of the solution, and we think that there's room for other solutions as well.
And I would note, in doing PACE for a decade, the first program I worked with was partially funded by a DOE grant really we had $15 million to start with, and we were the first group to fund a project in Ohio, and that took us a couple of years. And I can tell you at this point, Ohio is the second most active PACE market in the nation, just behind California, where PACE originated. With they're coming up on $200 million of projects that have been financed. California is a little over 400 million, and so PACE is not the only answer, but it is continuing to be a growing tool and expanding tool. So it is spread to more and more states in the last decade. There have been more and more lenders getting on board and interested. And I know one of our favorite finance partners, Petros PACE Finance, just financed $100 million of projects, I think in the last 2 months, which is an astronomical number, and something I don't think they would have even contemplated 2 years ago. So it's there, and it's continuing to expand. I agree. We're not the only response. We're not the only tool, but I'm going to keep looking for large piles of money and bring them to bear to help with making our buildings as efficient as possible. Elise, I think I saw a question about taking out a screen share. I'm not sure if you're able to. Excellent. Thank you.
I'm going to go into the chat. Let's see what we got here. Oh, yeah. We're out of screen share. Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to just go back to the reason we asked you to come and talk to this group is that we are, eventually moving forward on a sustainability and climate action plan. And moving forward on that really is based on the greenhouse gas emissions inventory results. And we found that commercial electricity was our highest emitting sector. And so, you know, one of the things we know we're going to have to do is figure out how to encourage, incentivize commercial buildings in our city to start reducing their consumption of electricity and natural gas. So, you know, we full well know that this is not a program for the municipalities or residential, but to help, you know, minimize energy waste at the commercial level and the industrial level, that's where you all could come in. And so thinking about Andrew's question about scaling up, how can we help get the word out? I mean, do you have one pagers for us to use, or can we ask you to come back to perhaps one of our energy work groups or speak to the DDA or the Chamber of Commerce? You know, what is it that we can do to get this out so that businesses know that you're there and can, you know, use this as one of the tools in the toolbox?
Yeah.
And if you want to answer that now, that's great. And if, you know, you want to send us stuff afterward, that would be helpful also.
Yeah. So I do have a one pager. We also have a physical trifold, and we were just working on updating that, and we're going to get that printed. So we'd be more than happy to mail that for that wonderful day when we can actually start, you know, getting out in person and visiting again. So to include with any materials that you offer. More than happy to follow up and you know, talk with any Royal Oak officials or committees that you think are appropriate. And again, also as you hear about, you know, business owners who might benefit, please go ahead and send them our way, and I'll make sure that we connect them for a one-on-one so they have an opportunity to talk through the specifics of their project. So I would say, Julie, thank you very much. I think you've very succinctly identified where we plug in. And, you know, we stand by to work with you to help educate stakeholders in your community. I would also say that we have recently been working with the folks over at Oakland County. We've established good working relationships over there. We've worked with our economic development folks. I just had a conversation with somebody at the treasurer's office the other day. And so in addition to working with the municipalities, we're also happy to continue working with the county as well, so that they're aware that this is a tool and are talking about it when doing you know, business development and retainment. Woody?
Yeah, so I just had another quick question, kind of following up on Aaron's question, actually, right? And it made sense in terms of some of the challenges of getting the community partners engaged. But I think in this case, you know, we've got a very engaged city, we've got a very engaged county in terms of wanting to take part in the program. So now my mind then turns to what are some of the challenges around getting the actual property owners to take part? And is it, you know, the same challenges that you kind of talked about before, or is it a different set of challenges? Because I think this group, you know, now that we sort of understand a little bit better, is probably going to be out actively, you know, recruiting the business owners to try to take part, right? Which is a good thing. But it would help us, I think, to understand, you know, what is that that initial hurdle that property owners might have to take part in the program? Because it does seem like, you know, it's a no-brainer to take part in it. Why wouldn't you want to? And yet that's not necessarily happening. So.
Well, again, I would just say it is education. And so one of the goals that we established for this year was to talk to economic development folks who are frequently in touch and make sure that they have the information they need to talk to property owners. Again, PACE can get a bit complicated, right? Elegant in concept, but we do want to have those initial conversations with folks. And so again, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, I would just say send folks our way, right? That's just how the deal happens. As we talk with people, you know, we connect them with contractors or lender, or, you know, kind of point them in the direction of the PACE loan market, so they can start talking to lenders and beginning to have those conversations. We also do have a PACE Summit coming up in June. We're going to have a lunch and learn series that kind of covers, the theme was PACE across Michigan and covering some parts of the state and talking about the work that we've done there. I think we also just determined that that's going to culminate at the end of June with a sort of just like a clinic where folks can just show up with ideas and kind of ping us, either from a government perspective or a property owner perspective, but just bring their ideas or prospects our way, and we can start working through them then. So again, we're happy to do that one-on-one. We also have an event coming up, and we'll be sure to keep you in the loop about that.
Great, thanks.
Welcome. Julie.
Okay, one more question. So if Oakland County has a PACE program and the city of Royal Oak has a PACE program, does it matter which place the company, takes it from? Should we, move people over to Oakland County because they have more administrative time and so forth, and I asked you this before, but I kind of forget the answer. So if you could remind, that would be great.
Yeah, no, we are happy to work with whomever. If it makes more sense to work with the city of Royal Oak, we're happy to do that. They have established a PACE district. If it makes sense to work with Oakland County, we will do that. Whichever is more expedient. We're happy to work with either party. I do need to reach out to your authorized officials who are the city manager and city clerk. They might not be gifted with the knowledge that Royal Oak is in fact a PACE district. Like I said, it was the resolution was passed in 2015, I believe, and so some time has elapsed. I imagine that there's been turnover. So again, part of what we're here to do this year is to just educate folks about it. So Oakland has been, we've been in touch with them very recently. We've closed deals there very recently. But if it made sense and if it was, part of Royal Oak's goal and fit with their sustainability and economic development plans, and they wanted to move forward with it, we'd be more than happy to work with them. Yes. I'm sorry, I can't see your full commissioner.
Yeah, I'm Charlene Douglas. I'm a city commissioner. We were very excited when this program came before us, very happy to approve it. And I am deeply chagrined that we have not had one of these projects in our city. I would expect that the person you deal with here would be our economic development director, Todd Fenton, although I'm sure he's wired into the economic development, the county's economic development networks as well. But I would be eager to see us have something like that happen here. And if we can, Todd's the man.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to hear from somebody who has been with the city and was sort of at the scene of the crime when the resolution was initially passed. So it's very good to hear that there's some institutional memory and appreciate your comments. And I would be happy to reach out to Todd.
Excellent. Thanks.
And Commissioner, I can tell you we've been busy expanding PACE the last couple of years, and with growing interest and projects, we've come to a quick realization that we've not kept in touch with our member jurisdictions as well as we should. And so Elise was a great find for us, and her goal this year and her sole charge, she has a wholly separate action items than the rest of us do, and it really is building this relationship back with our jurisdictions and trying to find a way that we can be a better partner for Royal Oak and some of the rest. So we look forward to getting our first project done in Royal Oak.
Were there any other questions? We're really grateful for your time tonight. It was a pleasure to kind of run through our pitch and hopefully get some leads and build some relationships. So I look forward to being in touch with various folks in Royal Oak. And Julie, again, thank you so much for recommending this and setting it up.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming and joining us and sharing this information with us. We really appreciate your time.
It was a pleasure. Have a great evening.
Thank you, likewise.
Bye.
Okay, on to our next agenda item, and that is to approve the January 27th meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion.
Okay, and is there a second?
I second.
Okay, is there any discussion on changes or anything about looks good? All right. Aaron?
You're muted.
Darn mute. Ms. Acevedo,
Yes.
Ms. Douglas,
Yes.
Mr. Gantina,
Yes.
Ms. Hartwig,
Yes.
Ms. Herzog,
Yes.
Ms. Lemmy,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Marcelletti,
Sorry, yes.
Ms. McMahon,
Yes.
Mr. Regan,
Yes.
Mr. Sarpalis,
Yes.
and Mr. Vile.
Yes.
Okay, great. Is there any public comment?
There are no attendees in the waiting room.
Okay, great. All right, then on to year in review. So over the past few weeks, I've been getting memories from from a year ago popping up on my Facebook feed, and many of you may also be experiencing this. For me, it has been a mix of emotions to look back on the naiveness and uncertainty of that time, but I'm also very grateful to see the progress and hopefully a light at the end of the tunnel on a very hard year. So I want to take a moment to reflect on our year as a board. We started the year off with big plans for 2020, like most of the world, and then I spent most of March canceling those plans. First, my favorite event, the St. Patrick's Day Parade, and then the environmental lecture series at the library, our monthly meetings, and our annual Earth Day event, which was especially tough because it happened to be the 50th year anniversary. But while we did have to take a pause, it wasn't for long. We started by passing out 100 trees to celebrate the Oakland County bicentennial, passed out hundreds of bottles and wipes of mosquito repellent, created and was adopted unanimously by the City Commission the resolution acknowledging the climate emergency, completed a greenhouse gas inventory. The Environmental Advisory Board was passed, ordinance was passed so we could make recommendations to the City Commission in a more meaningful way. We participated in our largest recycling event yet, over 1,000 cars. We appreciate the contribution of previous EAB members that resigned and gained 3 new EAB members, and connected to the community through social media. And then we started the planning and work on our biggest initiatives that will be carried throughout this year, which is the Sustainability and Climate Action Plan, the Fugitive Dust Ordinance, and the Community Garden Pilot Project. This was all done even through dealing with the crazy, indescribable, at times never-ending day-to-day of the pandemic, juggling kids, parents, and fur babies, working from home, Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting, binge watching TV shows, and all the anxiety that this year has brought. But I think 2020 ended up being one of our most productive and meaningful years of the EAB. And it is all because of your hard work and dedication to our city and the environment. And I very much appreciate all of you and what you bring to the board. So thank you so very much. I miss the dynamics of our in-person meetings, and I can't wait to stand in some extreme weather event at one of our EAB events very, very soon. So I just wanted to take a moment to reflect on what has been.
Here, here. Well said, Amanda.
That was great.
Nice
Thank
job.
you.
Yes.
Okay, so after that, the Director of Public Service and Recreation Services and Recreation report. Aaron.
Yes, okay.
Sorry.
Nope. So getting back to some water issues really quick, we did get our results letter from Eagle at the last meeting. We were waiting for that. We did indeed come in at 12 parts per million for our 90th percentile value, which is good. That's still below, and that reduces the number of sites that we have to test between June and September of this summer. We're down to 30 sites. So there's that. I mentioned previously at our last meeting that we were waiting word on the drinking water asset management grant. That was supposed to give us, we were supposed to have some sort of determination by the 15th of this month. It has not happened. I looked into it with Eagle. I suspect they're still swamped and still working through those. So we'll give it through the end of the month. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for that. Our consumer confidence report for 2020 is completed. That will go out in all of the Insight magazines, but it's also posted on the website. And we did a little news bulletin with a link to it. So I think that has to get approved from community engagement. So it might be a day or so, but it'll be up. Along with that also is our cross connection report, which is another annual report that we submit. And let's see, park cleanup. This is kind of a Parks and Recreation Advisory Board item, but also relevant to you guys. Saturday and Sunday, April 24th and 25th. We are doing our annual park cleanup projects where if you have a team of folks that want to adopt a park for an afternoon, we can provide you with some bags and some other tools, and you clean up the park and we'll pick up the stuff on Monday, that following Monday. So if there's interest in that, they can call and talk to Gail in our office at 248-246-3300. And then the last thing, I guess I'll leave this to Commissioner Douglas to expand on it, but it sounds like we will be doing this sort of meeting, unfortunately, at least through May as it stands right now. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Energy and Sustainability Manager report, Julie.
Okay, thank you. So the last month has been busy with webinars and meetings, a couple of big meetings. Amanda was able to set up a connection with April Lynch from Oakland County. And so we met with her on Monday and talked about some of the information coming out about Oakland County pushing forward for a sustainability officer. So they're going to move forward with the position. Tomorrow is the day that resolution is put in front of the commissioners. So that was really interesting and very nice to meet her, to start making that county connection, because one of the things we have to do with the sustainability work is really start building coalitions, so that we know what everybody else is doing, they know what we're doing, and we don't reinvent the wheel. And so anyway, and then we participated with Turn Oakland County Green on the government sustainability and climate presentation, which was great. And then today there was another Turn Oakland County Green event. And at this one, we met with the Oakland County Executive, Dave Coulter, and heard from him and some of his thinking relative to how sustainability is going to move forward in Oakland County. So they're on the move and interested to do so, and that's great to hear. I'm also working on an LED retrofit grant for the library. They're in the process of refurbishing multiple spaces in the library, and it just made sense that a conversion to LED to save energy, save money and energy is a piece that needs to be in that project. So fingers crossed that we can get a grant to help them pay for it. Then I worked with some of our peer cities to try to help find some kind of an ally for the fugitive dust issue that we have in front of us. And it seems like we found someone, but I'm not sure how well that's going to work. And maybe Amanda can speak to that if there's been any movement. And then, like I mentioned last time, I continue to work on that SolSmart solar designation. Our internal staff green team is talking about the bicycle-friendly community designation, and that may be an initiative that team takes on. And then the posting for the Graduate Fellows Intern Program was put out on Tuesday. So that is out, and certainly when the interns are found, one or more of them can help with some of the sustainability work. So that's really good news also. Let's see, and the last thing is I got a call from the Project Management Institute of Great Lakes, and they are doing a presentation together with the U.S. Green Building Council Detroit chapter, and asked if we could, as Royal Oak Lead for Cities, be a presenter to talk about project management and LEED, and how the building community can start moving forward on LEED projects. So that is, we're starting to see all of this movement from different areas, and it's really, it makes me so hopeful, because it feels like there's this train that's finally getting moving. So that's what I have for this report. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Julie. Now it's the city commissioner report. Sure.
Got it. Okay, sorry. So quickly, Aaron referred to this in passing. The state legislature did not act to extend the function that would let communities and counties, government agencies meet remotely. So at the city commission meeting this past Monday, the commission declared an emergency in the city of Royal Oak. And by doing that, it enables our all of our bodies, committees, commissions, boards, and so forth to meet remotely at least through the end of May. We don't know what the legislature will do after that, but we have the power to extend it further if we so choose. The city manager is optimistic that by summer we may be able to start holding in-person meetings again. So knock on wood about that, no promises, but at least a ray of hope, as Amanda said a moment ago. We conducted interviews with prospective city attorneys. We've narrowed the field to 2, and we'll be interviewing our 2 finalists on March 31st at, I don't know what time, 7 p.m. I believe. Hoping to, in fact, make an offer, narrow it down that day and make an offer to fill that position. Meanwhile, we've been using a law firm as our interim city attorney, and they've been doing a great job for us. Also at our last meeting, at our preceding meeting, we approved contracts for the Centennial Commons Downtown Park. Estimates came in higher than expected. These days in the construction world, that is the norm rather than the exception. And so what that means is that we will defer for the time being building restrooms in the park. And there was a concern that the cost estimate for the restrooms was, gold-plated toilets. And so we think we can maybe find a more cost-effective way to deal with that, film at 11. A little note, the CARES Act that the federal government signed or passed here included funds that go to units of government, states, counties, cities, and Royal Oak is going to be receiving $29 million in CARES funds, with a pretty broad window on how those funds can be spent. Agencies already have their hands out, and it's not a decision we will be making immediately, and certainly we'll be making that decision in a way that's consistent with our plans and our strategic plans and our budgetary needs, because starting in soon we'll start going into budget planning sessions for the coming fiscal year. So those are some of the highlights. Questions?
Yeah, Cheryl, what is the city budget annual?
So there's our general fund budget is in the neighborhood of just south of $100 million. That's the tax revenue that funds general expenses. And I should know what the total budget is, because the special revenue funds are a much more significant part of our overall spending. And when I'm done with this section, I will pull out my copy of the budget and answer your question shortly.
Okay, good, thanks. And is there any timeline on that $29 million from the CARES Act?
Don't know. It's just I think Senator Peters announced it here a couple of weeks ago, and when we get it and how we spend it are still TBD.
Okay, very good, thanks.
Julie. Oh, Julie?
Yeah, thank you. Can you touch a little bit on the planning committee, the planning board, and about master plan?
Yes, I'd be delighted to.
Okay.
I've been, some of you may know, I've been, since the day I got elected, lobbying to update the city's master plan. It is now more than 20 years old. That is a generation, and Royal Oak has changed dramatically since then. The Planning Commission has been pressing for a review of a number of issues that are very broad and really not suitable for being handled by the Planning Commission, but really part of a community discussion, a values discussion, and a broad planning effort. And I'm happy to report that the budget that we will consider, actually the capital improvement plan that the Planning Commission has blessed, that the City Commission will also vote on, includes $300,000 budgeted for a sweeping new master plan for the city. That is a process that will take a couple of years. It will involve extensive community engagement. And I will say that across Michigan, planners are finding that they can conduct effective community engagement in formats like this. And in fact, in many ways, there are people who wouldn't perhaps traditionally be involved on a face-to-face basis that can and like participating in a digital environment. So as things open up, we probably will have available tools, both face-to-face and like this, to use in our planning process. And I will say that it's April, what's the date? April 3rd? April 3rd meeting, the Greater Royal Oak Democratic Club is going to have a local resident who's one of the state's leading planners talking about master plans, how they can help members of a community articulate their vision and plan for their use in ways that are sustainable, which is important to all of us, and welcoming, and make a city accessible. So if you'd like to participate in that meeting, you don't have to be a Democrat to come and listen. And again, that will be Saturday, April 3rd, 10 a.m. And I know I see Tom Regan here. I know if you all don't see that information through Facebook, he could send it to us. Right, Tom? Thanks for the plug, Julie.
Oh, yeah. So I have a further question, and that is, how would the sustainability and climate action work group, task force, the work that we're doing right now, how best to get looped into that process? You know, because in the beginning, the sustainability stuff, the idea is that you embed it in all of the planning, wherever you can stick it in, it just becomes part of the thinking. And so I want to be sure that, you know, we get looped in as soon as possible, you know, when it makes sense to, you know, get started with the talking and have these voices also.
Yes, in other communities, a sustainability plan is part of the master plan. And if we play our cards right, we take those $300,000 and use the resources of a professional consulting firm who deals in this subject matter across the state to fold our sustainability planning into that, and perhaps to a degree get it off Julie's plate and into the hands of consultants, which would be great.
Okay. So we'll just stay in touch.
Yes. Don't stop what you're doing, but stay tuned.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey, Shar, I have a question. What is the difference between master planning and then the strategic planning? And does the sustainability stuff we're working on also fit in with the strategic planning?
So a master plan is a land use plan. It's about your physical environment and your growth, or you know, your attempts to manage your growth. Your master plan drives your zoning, so it's really about your physical conditions. Our strategic plan touches on all of the efforts of the city, so that we have goals addressing communication, sustainability, economic development, community well-being. There are 8 of them, and I'm not going to be able to name them all, but the strategic plan is much broader based.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Paul, I'll be back to you in a minute.
Okay, great. On to the fugitive dust work group, Jennifer.
Yes, we met last week to go over, we are working on some recommendations for the city commission, and they're going to be based on health and environmental data, best management practices that are known and the cost of those best management practices, and then a list of other communities that have some type of ordinance in place, whether it be like a fugitive dust or some type of residential demo. So we are on a good path, but yeah, we are still looking for, it's hard to find other cities that have ordinances in places, but we did find that city of Birmingham does. And I don't know if Amanda had a chance to ask Aaron, because we totally forgot that you came from there. So we're just trying to figure out who can we contact there that's part of the building permit demo group. If you can share that with us. I think they will give us a lot of good answers, actually. And I don't know, Aaron, if you have any advice, if you were any part of that.
Wasn't part of that. I do have some contact information that I can pass along in an email, for sure.
That would be great.
Is that in their ordinances? This is Pam. Is that in their ordinances, or is that something, is it a different type of document? So I didn't see it in the ordinances, at least not the ones that they have available online.
So the thing
Pam, it's in their ordinances in section 50 under environmental.
Okay.
Yeah, so they require a demolition permit for both commercial and residential. So that.
So just just to answer Julie's question, Julie connected us with someone that a lawyer, I don't have it up, but that works in this area, and he was willing to come talk to us about it. What we're trying to do right now is just write a recommendation for the city commission to look into an ordinance for the staff to do. So we were thinking that that connection might be better for the city to use, or for us when we're a little bit further down the line. It might not make sense right now, and because he is also a lawyer and we want to be mindful of his billable hours, we want to have real questions and ready to go for him to use him. So is there anything else, Jennifer?
Not that I can think of. If I missed anything, let me know. And if anybody has questions, let me know.
I guess the only other thing that I would like to add is that we're going to draft this and kind of workshop it for a little bit, but we'll try to bring it back to the EAB meeting in April. That's the goal if we don't get too busy. So, okay, on to the next, which is the community garden work group. Tom.
And can I share my screen? I just wanted to show you the survey results.
Sure, give me 1 second.
We posted a little Google Doc survey. We asked people to fill it out only if they were interested in putting a shovel in the ground this year at a location. If it's not possible, I'll just read the numbers. It's not.
It is, but this one function I always have a difficulty with.
Yeah, don't worry about it. But we had 73 people respond, which was pretty good, you know, just for sort of amateur distribution of it. We had 39 people say they'd like to do a garden on the Royal Oak High School lawn. 35 people say they'd like to do one on the west side of the Lindell Ice Arena. And then 42 people say they'd like to have a plot in Star JC Park in the corner over by Murray and Poplar. It's a sunny corner over there. So that seems to me it's obviously somewhere around 13 and Crooks we're going to choose. I made some discrete inquiries of the school district. They're probably going to put a parking lot on that lawn in front of Royal Oak High School where the tennis courts used to be. But they might be open to some other locations, and I'm supposed to go to their facilities committee meeting next month. I've been working with Mary Ann Van Heitzma. She's going to get me in there.
I'm sorry, Tom, should you choose to share your screen, you should be able to now.
Oh, okay. I guess everybody can see that now. Here we go, share. So there's the responses we're getting. But I found it's interesting. There's people interested all over the place. There's obviously a lot of pent-up demand in Royal Oak for a community garden. This is for that little square triangle of land at Crooks and Walnut and Beechwood. 16 people said they'd like to do a community garden there this spring. 18 people at Exchange Park, and 25 people at Churchill, and so on. This is a Lockman Park down by Keller. Bassett Park, and there's just a little bitty tiny corner of the park that you could even grow anything in that's out, that has some sun, 21 people. Then the west side of Salter Center, which is just a little strip of land. 18 people said they'd be interested in gardening there. So there's a lot of interest in town. And of the people who replied, 30 people said they'd like to have an individual plot all to themselves. They do all the work, they harvest all the produce. And 55 people said they'd like to work on a plot with someone else. And of course, there's some overlap. Some people checked both. There was nothing in the survey preventing them from doing that. But there's obviously a bunch of folks in town who would like to be a part of a community garden. I scheduled a meeting for Saturday at 10 a.m. Over at the west side of Lindell Ice Arena. Of course, I asked everybody to wear a mask, be COVID safe, and so on. Then we'll look at that site. Then we'll go over to the other place over at Star JC and look at that. And maybe my goal is to, of the people who show up, get some consensus on where we're going to approach Aaron and ask him, is it okay to do a garden here? Then of course we'll have the questions, do we want to charge people a fee? And what kind of contract would we want them to sign? What kind of agreement? And we've got some samples from Troy and Pleasant Ridge that we could copy off of. But that's the status of it. And I guess the big question would be too, we talked about having a pilot, but what if 18 people wanted to go do a garden in Salter Center this spring? Would that be bad? Would we have a process set up where they could do it? Do we want to limit ourselves to one location, I guess would be a question, but we don't have to answer that tonight. And I mean, that's mostly for staff as well. I mean, it's not something we'd put up for a vote in the Environmental Advisory Committee.
Tom, could you send me those couple sample agreements that you referenced?
Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
That
Tom,
was my report. Yep.
Tom, did you already send out the email for the Saturday meeting?
Yes,
Oh, okay. Did you just do it? Because I didn't see it.
today.
Oh, today. Okay. All right. I'll check my email again. Thanks.
Yeah, you should have it in there now. Yeah.
Okay.
Has there been any conversation or discussion about how much it would cost or what resources you would need to have us per site?
No.
Okay.
I mean, other than water too, the utility, that's might be the only cost that would be incurred by the city, and that's at certain locations where that's provided.
And we'd have to figure out a way to get a compost delivered from Sacra.
That's easy enough, yeah.
Yeah.
So Tom, do both of the places have access to water?
No, neither.
Neither. Okay. And then about the west side of the Lindell Ice Arena, would it be close to the building or far enough away to get east sun so that the building isn't shading it?
It some of it would be shaded, most of it wouldn't. It's really good sun there. Yeah, most of the day it's just bacon. Yeah.
Okay.
Tom, I mentioned that we had talked previously. They have those ice shavings there. Would that be of use? I mean, I don't know if but oftentimes they let the ice shavings just melt.
Yeah, and that would be a fine source of water. And the other great source would be that roof. Now, of course, you have to worry about E. coli with bird and squirrel droppings, but all that rainwater would be fantastic. And I mean, anybody who grows will tell you that rainwater is a lot more beneficial than tap water when it comes to watering your plants. And we could tap into those downspouts pretty easily, and you don't have to divert the entire downspout. You just, it's literally you cut a hole, stick a hose in there, and run it to a rain barrel.
Any other questions for Tom? Okay, great. Moving on then, the sustainability plan work group. Julie.
Okay, so we have fallen into a cadence every 2 weeks on Wednesday. We meet, and currently we're working on the draft timeline for the Sustainability and Climate Action Plan, community forums, and work groups, and then, you know, with the end deadline of providing the draft to the commission in the middle of January of 2022. So we're adding events in there and moving around dates, starts and finishes, and so that's in place and being adjusted. We also have a working document where we list the obligations of the task force and try to name all of the pieces that we need to tackle here. And that is, again, a working document. Each meeting we make adjustments. Woody had an idea to invite Judy Davids to come and talk to us like she did for the Planning Commission about the community engagement cookbook. And so she'll be joining us at our next meeting, which is next Wednesday. And so things are moving along slowly but surely. You know, we have 6 people on the team, and we're chugging away. So if anybody on the team wants to pitch in, feel free. Paul, Andrew, Amanda, Woody.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning that we kind of came up with a tentative date. I mean, it's something that we still got to explore a little bit more, but we're talking about June 5th as being our first community forum date. So, I mean, that's going to come up fairly quick. So it's worth throwing that out there so everyone knows that we're, if it's not June 5th, we definitely want to have it kind of in the first couple of weeks of June, but we're looking at June 5th. Also, yeah, just to, kind of reiterate, we're, a little bit more focused on, creating 6 focus work groups, and the 6 groups are energy, transportation, green space, water, waste, and quality of life. So we're really going to need, a lot of expertise, a lot of help to help facilitate, these focus work groups. And we anticipate, or our timeline is such that we're thinking that this wouldn't take place till September, October, give us, multiple months to plan, and also allow some time for the community forums to take place and to help get the word out to develop those groups. So if someone has expertise and waste and water, or energy, whatever, we're interested in adding to these groups. So hope other members of the Environmental Advisory Board will think about joining us for those. So.
Yeah, and Paul, that reminds me, another document that we've put together is the stakeholder spreadsheet. So if indeed you or someone you know wants to be a part of this, please have them be in touch with me and we can get them listed there so that when we're ready to go, we have emails and we know who's interested in what. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, on to the next is announcements, and I'm gonna throw this over to Andrew.
Great. Yeah, there is a vote, as I think was mentioned a little earlier, tomorrow at the Oakland County Commission on a couple of significant things that will impact this group and pretty much every city in Oakland County, and to some degree. They are planning to fund a chief sustainability officer, which they're going to conduct a national search for the best candidate. They're putting a significant amount of money behind that. They want it to be a high-level county position. And then they're also preparing to hire the consultancy AECOM, AECOM, to do their campus sustainability audit. They're going to audit a couple of their buildings with AECOM's help and teach their staff to do it. And then they're going to do the rest of the facilities in-house at some point in the future. But they're going to be using what they gather there to develop a countywide climate action plan which they're going to start a year from the date of passage. So a lot of they're looking at how they can help cities like ours. Once they get an office in place, there will be someone on staff with the county to find grants. A lot of that grant money could find its way back to Royal Oak or Ferndale or other places that need it. And also a lot more, we're seeing potentially a lot more cooperation being allowed between cities. So this is a very large vote. It's about $750,000 of funding, which is a first step, but a significant amount of money to put into something like this. We are hearing, I was on that meeting that Julie mentioned with the county executive earlier today, and I've heard from some other county commissioners who texted me that somebody is generating significant opposition to this. They're getting calls and emails from people in some districts, and they're asking us to have a good turnout on tomorrow night. So if I would ask this board if anyone, is able to at 6 o'clock, there is a call-in number. You just give your name and they'll call your name when it's time, and you can give a public comment. You could just say, I support it, or you could give up to 3 minutes. You can also, if you can't be there, submit something in writing and they will read it during the public comment period. And there's instructions for that as well in their agenda. But if anyone's able to make that commitment to fight for this funding, I think it will be really critical for what we're doing. And, what Julie's talking about with the climate action plan, some of it's probably not going to be possible without this. So we want to make sure that it passes and we don't have any commissioners change their votes because they're not hearing from the communities. So I just wanted to give an update on that.
So all you have to do is use the call number you said, and
yes, let me see if I can share in the chat the agenda. At the bottom of the agenda is instructions for how to participate, and there's a number to call in if you actually want to make a physical voice comment over the phone. You're going to have to call in, but there's also a link, and you can click that and go give a written comment as well. So okay. I'll see if I can dig that up really quick.
All right, thank you. And is there any other updates or discussion from anyone?
Yes,
Woody.
A quick comment. I did not know that you were going to take us down memory lane at the beginning, so that was wonderful. Thank you. But one thing I wanted to mention to everyone is as Julie had alluded to earlier, there's been lots of webinars and conversations that we've been fortunate enough to be a part of at both the county level and surrounding municipalities as well, all talking about the work that's going on with the creation of sustainability and climate action plans. And one of the things that's becoming clear to me is that we as Royal Oak, and certainly Oakland County, we seem to be a little bit further ahead than so many cities in Michigan and so many cities across the nation, actually. And when that dawned on me, I had a really renewed sense of pride in the work that we do. So I just wanted to mention that to all of you guys, because the conversations that we have, this stuff really does matter. And the fact that you're all taking the time out to do it is awesome because we are leading the pack in terms of our community and our surrounding communities. So great job, everybody.
Thanks, Woody. Paul?
Yeah, Amanda, you'd shared for part of this meeting the waste numbers. It was an annual report. Are we going to cover that in today at all?
Sure. Aaron can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's the next item on the agenda, and that will be just a regularly occurring item. We get that monthly as part of the SOC board meetings. I get that, so I extract that out of that packet, which is full of all kinds of other stuff that might not be of interest, but that I think is, and it gives us a good comparison. That's for just February. We do have an annual one that comes out at the end of the year as well, but it's good because it shows the various different types of waste that we generate, and also sort of how we stack up against our neighbors. Measuring it, I guess, against straight tonnage is not a good idea for obvious reasons. But as a percentage of our total waste stream, we could use that as a good barometer for how we stack up against our closest neighbors, if nothing else, to help motivate us to recycle and compost. So that's really the purpose that's on there. You'll see that every time I get one of these, I'll pass it along and it'll be included in this packet. And we can discuss it or not, either way, but it'll be there regularly.
Aaron, did you see any kind of trends with our recycling numbers throughout COVID, and did it increase, decrease, stay the same?
Unfortunately, mixed solid waste kind of was the thing that jumped out. There was a period of time when, especially early on in the pandemic, everyone was home, and then taking advantage of that time to clean out basements and attics and everything else and garages. So there was a lot of that. That said, we also then, as noted previously, because of that, people cleaning out the garages, we had a really record turnout for our household hazardous waste. So kind of the recycling has been somewhat steady. That has not changed significantly since the pandemic.
Hey, Aaron, for the column of 2021, is that an estimated, or is, I mean,
No, that's the 2021 for the month of February. So all those numbers you're
oh,
are just for the calendar month of February.
oh, gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So
Anything?
yeah, just a question for Aaron. In terms of our outreach with regards to, trying to get people to recycle more or to recycle appropriately, yeah, maybe I'm a little, this has been talked about in the past, and, I'm just not aware if, for us new members, perhaps you could bring us up to speed.
Arguably, we don't do enough outreach on the recycling thing generally. It comes and sort of starts and fits. There was a big discussion about it when the carts were rolled out recently, relatively recently anyway. That generated a lot of interest, and there they saw some numbers spike. But I would argue that, yeah, we need to do more work on that. And I think by putting this in front of ourselves here every month, it will remind us of that, and we'll look for the help of this group. But I think having some competition might be a fun way of engaging the community with it. So we'll track these numbers for a couple months and see who's right on our heels or who we want to bypass, and we can make a social media campaign on it if we wanted.
We did a few years ago have a competition with like Madison Heights, and the mayors were supposed to do something, but then something happened around the month that they chose, like, because it was like Christmas, and Christmas threw everything off for the holidays. So I think it got scrapped. But I think there was supposed to be something happened to the mayors were going to do something like shave their heads or something. I don't know.
I'm going to circle back on that. That would be a lot of fun. That's a good idea.
We would just have to make our mayor cut off his man bun.
Do you think you would?
I think Nicole might do it for him.
All right. Well, our next meeting is April 28th. And is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great.
All right. Ms. Acevedo.
Yes.
Ms. Douglas.
Yes.
Mr. Gunty.
Yes.
Ms. Hartwig.
Yes.
Ms. Herzog.
Yes.
Ms. Lemmy.
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes.
Mr. Marcelletti.
Yes.
Ms. McMahon.
Yes.
Mr. Regan.
Yes.
Mr. Sarpalis.
Yes.
And Mr. Vile.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, everyone have a wonderful night and month, and I'll see you in April.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you. Bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.